Why is the discourse around early access games so hit or miss? There are 4 things that create a really amazing early access game experience when they're done well. And those same 4 things can create a really terrible experience when done badly. Grab your favorite mug and let's get into the thicket of these components. I have 4 key components that we're going to talk about, but I want to roll us back just a little bit for those who might not know what it means for a game to be in early access. Reason for this is because that is very relevant to my second point. Early access is a paid-for, unfinished game that is still in active development. It might not be the full game yet, but you do have full access to it, and that access never goes away, even once the game is fully released. You bought the game. So now that we know what early access is, it kind of raises a second question, which is why would I pay money for an unfinished game? Let's dive into our components, and I think we'll find a pretty good answer. In my experience, transparency is key in a business-consumer relationship. Well, any relationship, but the more upfront that a company is, the better. I personally don't like supporting something that I find out weeks, months, or years later did not align with what they said they did, or aren't delivering on what they sold to me. Communication breakdowns are the biggest betrayal that an early access game can commit. And I think it's a big reason why a lot of gamers can be a bit jaded when it comes to talking about early access games. The more open and honest that a dev team is when it comes to the progress of their game, the more secure players feel having invested into that game. And the same is true if they're not communicative. Players lose trust in developers that aren't open about what's going on behind the scenes. The community around an early access game shows a lot about what the developer wants to foster in their games as well as their players. It's why I tend to stay away from online multiplayer games and competitive games, and that is because I am frankly a sore loser when it comes to competitive things. While I have enjoyed some competitive games that have been in early access, like Supervive, it's not usually my cup of tea, and I usually just take a sip and move on. Earlier I mentioned it's important to understand what early access games are, and that it related to this point. And here's why. In my opinion, gamers need to have more grace and frankly lower expectations when it comes to games in early access. For me, this is another reason why the community aspect can ruin the early access experience. I want to reiterate, this is an unfinished game that is still in active development, often ran by small teams or solo devs. The game is going to be buggy. It's going to be a little rough. And the chicken house might not behave the way that it's supposed to. This is all normal and expected within early access games. Part of this is being able to give that feedback, submit a bug report to let them know so the development team can hopefully recreate and then fix the issue. If you don't want to deal with that, or you can't separate a fleshed out game from the bones of a game, it might be better to wait for the full release of the game. Community involvement is a huge part of early access games and one of the biggest draws to me. That being said, communities that are more invested and excited about the game and the dev team than the dev team is about their community, that's a red flag to me. And that leads to my next point. Motivation for the game. Developers, much like any creative person, are sharing art and sharing a story, and that should mean something to them or to those around them. And that can range from, this was a really fun concept that I would love to play with my friends and that I want to play, to this represents a part of my heritage and honors those who made it so I could be here today. Developers who are in it for the money, and only the money, are the ones that I think lead to half-assed, unfinished projects. and that is definitely a big aspect to what has the gaming community feeling so jaded around early access. That's not to say they shouldn't make money. That's definitely always a hope. But if it's the only reason for the game, well, we can just take a look at some of our AAA developers and the flack that they regularly receive for having the means to make amazing games and not always making amazing games. And indie devs regularly make beautiful games with a fraction of the budget. And that, I think, truly shows how much the heart that people put into their product makes the game. And I want good games. I want games that are beautiful to look at, that tell a meaningful story. And if buying early access helps to fund the game that has the right heart, I think that that's very much worth the expense. At least, that's a reason why I would spend my money on an unfinished game. But it can all fall apart in the final component, which is delivery. Because delivery is built up off of everything that came before it. Communication, community, motivation. Those things are what paves the road for delivery. If any of those things waver, then the delivery is often the nail in the coffin for a bad early access experience. It is disappointing, lackluster, and frankly, embarrassing. But if it's done well, if the communication is clear and prompt, and the community is cared for and listened to, and the motivation for it is all aligned, well then I regularly get exactly what I signed up for. And honestly, oftentimes more than I could have hoped for. I get games where each major update feels like getting free DLC. I get games like these.
What is that? Oh my god! What the fuck? Come on, you. There he is. It's the Bomba Bomba.
Okay, I forgot how to play this game. Still fighting.
My
I just
God.
killed 2. Help!
I'm on the way. You're so far away.
Oh, I just got hit by a train.
Oh.
Oh.
So why do gamers hate early access? Personally, I can't say that that's necessarily the true statement. Jaded, maybe. Apprehensive, for sure. But honestly, I feel like early access just needs to be your cup of tea. And I'm not someone who wants to just list out a bunch of problems and not offer some kind of solution. And while I can't make game developers more communicative, invested, or motivated, I can make a suggestion to players. Vet the devs before you buy into their product. Are they active on social media with regular updates on the game's progress? Are trusted people, content creators you like, or close friends and family talking about this game? Do the devs have a website that you can go to learn more about the company and the game? Those are at least a few things that I look for before I decide to invest into an early access game. I also always love a demo. If I can get a taste for what the game is going to be like before fully signing on to it, I am all for that. Tell me what you think. Are early access games a hard pass for you, or are you like me and do you enjoy them? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see a deep dive into an early access game that I am frankly in love with, check this out here. Otherwise, save your games, water your plants, and I will see you next time.